Here we are to talk about what is in the newspapers today. We've got Candice Holdsworth and Suzanne Holder. Very nice to see both of you. The Rwanda rebellion, Candice.
Yes, so this is on the front page of the Eye, and this is the major news of today. So Rishi Sunak has basically faced a rebellion of about 58 Tory MPs. They were backing amendments led by Robert Jenrick and Bill Cash to his Rwanda bill. They failed to pass in the House of Commons, but still the number of MPs that were opposing his bill is so enormous that the Eye is reporting that it will come as a shock to him. I mean, he's really struggling to unite his party on this issue. I mean, he's got so many different factions that he's got to please. I mean, he's got the two caucuses of the Conservative Party, and then he's also got to manage the expectations of Rwanda, who've also said, you know, they won't tolerate any violations of international law. Plus, you're looking at the mathematics of the House of Commons, because Labour and the Lib Dems are just voting these things down. It is an impossible situation to manage. But, I mean, I can't imagine they'd challenge his leadership now. I mean, there's an election coming up in November. That seems like madness.
Yes, but if he loses the bill tonight, it's impossible to overstate, really, how damaging that is for his authority.
Yes.
And it's impossible, really, to see. I mean, I actually think it's unlikely that the rebels will vote against the bill tonight. I think that they might have just fired a warning shot with those amendments last night. Who knows? 29 apparently is the magic number. If 29 people rebel against the bill tonight, then that's it. The bill will fall. And that could be existential for the government. Could even lead to a general election rather than another election of a new leader. Who knows?
And I never understand whether
the Tory psychodrama.
Well, yes,
never ends.
And that's all it is all the time. And I never understand how they think this level of disruption is going to be helpful to their own cause of kind of staying in power and kind of bringing through any legislation they want to bring through. And also, if you've got any sort of idea, the only way to kind of get anything through is to kind of stick with it and believe in it. And they don't seem to believe in anything that they have going at any point. It's just...
Such a good point. I mean, how can he lead when he's trying to please everyone like this?
Well, I mean, the recent revelations were that actually he wasn't, as Chancellor, that even convinced that Rwanda would work as a deterrent. Yeah. And here it is, being the policy that could actually bring down his government. And that's sort of an accidental sort of thing. I don't think he ever intended for this to be his defining legacy.
It doesn't matter what we think, I suppose, but it depends. If at the end of the day, Suzanne, people go to the polls and this matters to them, do you think this matters more than, say, the cost of living crisis?
The Rwanda deal or the fighting between...
the Rwanda deal.
I think the cost of living crisis matters more to people generally when I think that, yeah, the day-to-day of everything that you have to deal with, and bills, and when you go to the shop, and what we know, are you able to get what you need for your children? And I'm sure that means more to people generally, doesn't it?
So, Candice, you tell me what you think.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, Labour have really emphasised that. They think cost of living is more of an issue than Rwanda and immigration. But I think amongst Conservative voters, it is the issue. And this is what the Conservatives are facing now, peeling off of votes to say reform, because they take a much harder stance on this. And that could lead to a loss, a big loss.
And is it possible that the two issues blur into one, in the sense that a lot of people, perhaps red wall voters, see the immigration crisis and the numbers of people coming into this country as directly linked to the fact that they are struggling to get the kind of quality of living that they want, the housing, the schools, the NHS, etc. And people, therefore, see it all as interlinked. You know, their quality of life, their cost of living is
it is all interlinked.
Yeah.
It is interlinked.
It is interlinked.
I mean, I was out and about over the weekend, and I was looking at a number of new housing developments that were being built, all very nice, and you look and there's 40 houses in there and there's 50 houses in there, and you think that wouldn't matter a jot compared to the people who are coming into the country. It's not 100,000 houses, and if it is 100,000 houses, it's only going to get us where we were in the first place, not ahead of the game. So from that point of view, when you look at all those things and you look at the structures, whether they're school or hospitals or anything like that as well, the infrastructure doesn't seem to exist.
But on the rebellion as well, it might be a really daft question. So apologies if it's a daft question, but it's all very well rebelling against something and not agreeing with it, but what is their solution? Do they have one?
What, the rebels?
Yeah.
Well, they wanted to toughen it up so that...
But what does that look like?
It looks like they don't want any migrants in the country at all. That's what it looks like.
Well, it looks like no lawyers being able to prevent those planes from taking off. And that means the One Nation Tories would say that these asylum seekers have fewer rights than even the hard and worst criminals in this country. So it basically strips away a lot of the human rights of people, and that's why there's such opposition from the left of the Tory party. But the trouble is, even if those amendments had gone through, the Lords would have never have approved it. So it felt a bit like a totemic thing, rather, sort of academic idea rather than anything more. Should we talk about the post office, Suzanne? Because this was the other big story, which on any other day would have dominated most of the front pages today. We had an apology from Fujitsu for this Horizon IT scandal, and an admission that to MPs that they had a moral obligation.
Yeah, which is, I find that after everything that we've seen, and whether we've seen the drama or haven't seen the drama, we've now picked up on all the facts and information that the drama has given us as a mass population now, not just the few people who were following the story before, because it obviously has been going on for years. But the most senior member of staff in the UK for Fujitsu has been giving his evidence, such as it was, and has said truly sorry and personally appalled, and use the words moral obligation about having to compensate the victims. But it is just all so staggering that this is still going on, and they're still kind of lumbering through this, because he also doesn't remember quite a lot of things that he's asked, and can't comment, even though he was told, well, you're covered by parliamentary privilege, so you can say no, he can't remember this and he can't remember that. It just is just completely shocking. There are so many people. I mean, I feel like we've been covering this now for a long time, but it's still, every time you look at it, 1,000 postmasters convicted based on computer says no, on data that was faulty from Horizon.
And you just wonder, I mean, this has become a big story now, but how many of these things go on that we don't know about, where people are hounded by bureaucracy like this?
That's the really frightening thing, isn't it?
Well, the whole tax situation, IR35... and
yes, you've mentioned that before.
Are part of all of this, and no one cares because it doesn't seem to affect them, so they just get on with that. But the Inland Revenue, or whatever they're called now, what do they call them?
HMRC.
HMR, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs.
His Majesty.
Can basically jackboot their way through anybody's life, do anything they want, and no one seems to object to that. And that will be the next big scandal, IR35. And
well, there will be other people out there, and miscarriages of justice are very difficult to get a hold on, because obviously, especially with this many people, some of whom who pleaded guilty. I mean, what I really feel shocked by is the way that their local communities sometimes reacted as well, with children bullied at school, and awful attacks on people, and people
and just also in the evidence being given yesterday. I forget the name of the lady. Forgive me. She's one of the stars of the ITV show.
Jo, isn't it? Yes.
Jo, I can't remember her surname, but she said her parents died believing that she...
Oh my God. Well, they knew she was innocent, but they didn't get to see her clear. Jo Hamilton it is, isn't it? Yeah, that's right.
A tragedy.
Pretty ghastly. You see, Prince William, if and when he becomes king, he could sever ties with the Church of England. So he could become the first British monarch to break official ties with the Church of England. Does that concern anybody at all, Candice? What do you think?
I mean, this is a story in the Mail, and it's talking about, it's basically, this is a discussion in the journalist Robert Hardman's new biography of Charles III. And he was saying that Prince William is very representative of his generation, and that he's not really a regular churchgoer. And they speculate, could he break ties with the Church of England? I think it's unlikely.
Yeah.
He seems very conventional to me. I mean, I don't mean that as an insult. I just mean he seems very respectful of the traditions. He goes to church on Easter, he goes to church at Christmas. I don't think he would do anything radical like this.
I think they're making the point, and it probably is a fair one, that he's not as spiritual as his father. And actually, there is a quote that says something about he's one of the least ideological people I've ever met. Somebody else described him as serious and pragmatic. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
There's nothing wrong. I think it's all about values, though, isn't it? I think we would like him to have certain values, and I think he does appear to demonstrate those values.
Family
what
values,
religion you align with. Does that matter so much now? And possibly as part of the younger generation, he does feel, well, it's better not to align too strongly with one. So, I mean, but his father was always, he wanted to be defender of faiths, didn't he? Not just defender of the faith.
He's been very good at all.
Yeah.
And when his coronation and the kind of representation of all different religions, I thought was a wonderful thing to say.
That's very Charles.
Brilliantly.
Yes.
Suzanne, how are you coping with the cold weather?
I don't mind it so much because it's been, I think you were saying earlier, my favourite weather, sunny and cold.
Yeah,
when you've got a blue sky, it is. I mean, having said that, it's not so good when you get home and the heating's not been on and it's freezing cold and it takes a long time to warm up your house, and heating bills obviously are an issue for people. But yeah, it is. I do know. We do love to yak on about the weather, don't we?
We do.
And
But it is the coldest January in 14 years.
It
so for
is.
once, I think we're justified in talking about it.
But they said it was the coldest day. And then I got up this morning very early, came out, no cars were in London were frosted over at all. So you're just thinking, well, is it different? I said to the taxi driver, did you have to de-ice your car this morning? He said, no, it's the wrong sort of cold for that. I don't understand. There's all these different kind of variations, aren't there, on how you can have
Depends how
cold.
much moisture's in the air, by and large. But you're right, it was significantly milder. It was about -1 as opposed to -5 today. But that is going to change, Candice, as we head into the weekend. Are you good at coping? I mean, I got my big coat out today, got my gloves,
good.
I got everything, got it all. No need for it really today.
Well, I lived in South Africa for years, and so I sort of forgot how to deal with the cold, but now I'm good again. Now I'm like, OK, I know exactly how to dress for winter. I overdress my children, I'm pretty sure of it, though my husband, I think, underdresses them. I mean, he's got no idea. Like, you know, he'll send them in just like a T-shirt in December and stuff.
The kids don't
and a
complain,
jacket.
do they? They don't realise they need warm layers.
I know, I just get calls from the nursery, like, we took off his jacket and he was just wearing a T-shirt. So I'm like, OK, I've got to compensate now, so I've just got this massive snowsuit and my poor child.
That never ends, by the way. I was meeting my son at the tube station yesterday and I nearly texted him to say, don't forget to put your big coat on. He was 29 on Monday. He said, I'm just not sure that I should be doing that, but I fought that urge and I didn't do it.
Oh, well done.
Yeah.
Did he wear a coat?
I was so pleased with him because he came and he got his big coat on.
What a good boy.
That's what I said.
Talk about parenting, childhood obesity. We know what a big problem this is. But Candice, I'm surprised to see that this new research from the University of Toronto is saying fruit juice can cause weight gain. How is this news? Everybody knows that.
I know. I mean, I used to drink fruit juice a lot, and then I found out actually it can really spike your blood sugar, even though a lot of people find it think it's healthy. So yeah, this study from the University of Toronto, covered in the Times, they were saying that you shouldn't even give juice to under 5s at all because it said it can cause tooth decay and cause them to have a sweet tooth. I think that's a little extreme, personally. I think kids can have a treat, and I think it's good to sort of teach them everything in moderation. Not every day, definitely not every day.
Well, you can water it down as well.
Yeah.
I don't know why people don't just think of doing that.
Yeah.
You don't have to give it neat.
Yeah, it's interesting, though, the way I talk to my children about food, because I think we are more health conscious these days, and we put a big emphasis on it. But at the same time, you want them to enjoy food, you know, and to know that it is OK to have a treat every now and again.
But once they taste treats, in my experience, it's like they never want to go back to the healthy stuff.
Gosh.
My kids used to gobble happily through the fruit and veg. And now, whenever I pick them up from school, they want the naughty snack.
I know.
And I'm really fighting, you know, this desire to keep them happy and full of fuel versus the healthy thing. But I don't really understand the need for fruit juice when there's all these sugar-free squashes that can flavour water.
That's an historical thing. I mean, when I was a kid, you were told that fruit juice was good for your vitamin C, good for your bones, good for various things. So therefore, to have fruit
one of your
juice
5 a day.
Yes, exactly. It was deemed to be very, very good, whereas now people will recoil in horror.
It's like 500 calories in a glass of orange juice, which is, you know, that's a huge chunk of your proportion of daily calories.
Nobody would have known that in 1966.
But today
people
would have taught that from birth.
I think it's even worse, though, if you have it with a side order of chips and donuts. And we're not looking in this... This hasn't... You know, you don't know how thorough this research is when they're saying, oh, children who drink fruit juice are fatter. But what else are they eating? Is the question not answered there?
Absolutely.